Good afternoon. I am pleased to kick off this conference that addresses one of the very top priorities of the Department of Justice, combating opioid trafficking. At the highest ranks of the department, including the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General, we are laser focused on deploying every tool at our disposal to disrupt the global opioid supply chain, prosecute the violent cartels that flood synthetic opioids into our communities, and protect the American people from these dangerous drugs. As opioid coordinators and prosecutors, you know what we're up against in this fight. In each of the past 3 years, we've lost more than 100,000 American lives to drug overdose deaths, with the vast majority caused by synthetic opioids like fentanyl. More Americans between the ages of 18 and 49 die from fentanyl than from any other cause. Last year, the DEA seized more than 77 million fentanyl pills and nearly 12,000 pounds of fentanyl powder, the most fentanyl ever seized by DEA in a single year. And DEA data shows that the average weight per fentanyl seizure skyrocketed last year by 41%, making all of your investigative and prosecutorial efforts that much more impactful. To meet the moment, we've been attacking the crisis at every stage of the opioid manufacturing, supply, and delivery chain. And that chain starts at sources outside the United States. So last week, DEA Administrator Ann Milgram traveled to China to meet with Chinese officials at the Ministry of Public Security as part of the inaugural meeting of the Counter-Narcotics Working Group, where she emphasized the need for China to stem the flow of fentanyl precursor chemicals, pill presses, and related manufacturing equipment that travels from China to Mexico and Canada and on to the United States. Today, Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco is in Mexico, meeting with the Mexican Attorney General on ways to crack down on cartels, enhance interdiction strategies, and improve law enforcement coordination, as well as to disrupt and deter the flow of high-powered firearms illegally trafficked from the U.S. to Mexico to arm the cartels. And tomorrow, DAG Monaco will work with leaders of Mexico and Canada to identify additional concrete ways to fight fentanyl trafficking across the continent as part of the ongoing trilateral fentanyl working group. Now, we also need to address fentanyl trafficking in the last mile of the delivery chain at the distribution level. Regularly, the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General host leaders representing state and local and tribal law enforcement from across the country to strategize on, among other challenges, the fight against fentanyl. And we're counting on all of you, the women and men of the Department of Justice, prosecutors, agents, analysts, staff, to continue to do what you do best: investigate, prosecute, ensure accountability, vindicate the rights of victims, deter crime, and restore communities. Now, of course, your work is not only about investigations and prosecutions. That's just one part, albeit an important part, of our overall strategy to reduce violent crime and combat the opioid crisis across the country. To protect every American, we must also invest in community-based prevention and intervention programs, build trust with the communities we serve, and use data to target our efforts and measure the results. We must be clear-eyed about the challenge we face. Fentanyl poses a singular threat, not only because the smallest of doses can be lethal, but because, unlike cocaine or heroin, fentanyl is not derived from nature. It's entirely man-made, and as a result, it's in potentially limitless supply. Production is limited only by the availability of precursor chemicals. And fentanyl and other synthetic opioids are far more powerful than heroin. Last year, the DEA and its law enforcement partners seized the equivalent of 388.8 million lethal doses of fentanyl. That's enough to kill every single American. And to make them even more dangerous, These powerful, deadly substances are often hidden inside fake pills designed to look like legitimate pharmaceuticals or even like candy. A young person might think they're taking Xanax or Percocet, only to find out when it's too late that it was fentanyl concealed inside that fake pill. This is the challenge we face. Young people are dying. Families are devastated. Communities have been turned upside down. At the Department of Justice, all of us recognize the weight and the significance of this challenge. Through and with each of you, we're working round the clock to meet this challenge, to protect our communities, and to honor those we've lost. We are combating the cartels and the fentanyl epidemic the same way we've fought other existential threats, by joining with other agencies to use every tool of national power and attack every aspect of the opioid threat, from the chemical companies in China that spawn fentanyl precursors, to the international networks and money launderers and hitmen that facilitate its distribution, to the drug dealers on the streets and on social media. We are extending our reach to every corner of the globe so there can be no safe haven. Last year, in June and October, thanks to the hard work of EOUSAs from the Middle and Southern Districts of Florida and the Eastern and Southern Districts of New York, we indicted 12 Chinese companies and 20 Chinese nationals for seeking to flood gallon after gallon of fentanyl precursor chemicals into North America. We will not allow those who feed the fentanyl supply chain to hide behind a facade of legitimate international business. And just as we've gone on offense against terrorists and cyber criminals around the globe, so we're taking the fight to the international cartels that manufacture and distribute these deadly substances, targeting their leadership structure, seizing their ill-gotten gains, and holding them responsible for the violence and death that they're causing. In April of last year, through the work of EOUSAs in the Southern District of California, Northern District of Illinois, Southern District of New York, the District of Columbia, and trial attorneys at NDDS, the department charged dozens of individuals across all aspects of the Sinaloa cartel's deadly operations. And at the end of last month, in just 1 week, the department announced drug trafficking charges against nearly 200 individuals in 10 states and multiple districts. Now, it's not just criminal prosecutions. We're also using sanctions and international partnerships to find new and creative multilateral solutions to this global problem. We're targeting those who provide pill presses that are used to make deadly fake pills. And we're breaking up the networks that launder the proceeds of drug trafficking. We will continue to target every part of the deadly supply chain that's killing thousands of Americans, and we won't rest until we've overcome this crisis. But we recognize that prosecutions and sanctions alone won't be enough to tackle the entirety of the synthetic opioid problem. So we're also working closely with public health partners to make treatment available, arm first responders with life-saving naloxone, and educate communities about the dangers of opioids. As we continue these efforts, we're working hard to provide you with more tools. We're working on a package of legislative proposals to assist you in your work, so stay tuned. And we will continue to look to each of you to identify tools and resources that would help you be even more effective. You guys are the experts, and we need to tap into that expertise. As opioid coordinators and prosecutors, you're on the front lines of this battle. You're working with your law enforcement partners to identify and prosecute those who are profiting from the deadly opioid business. This work is vital because it holds the peddlers of poison accountable for the harm they're causing in our communities. But you're doing so much more. Many of you have developed innovative approaches to target the most serious drug traffickers in your communities. We applaud that entrepreneurial spirit, and we encourage you to find solutions that are tailored to your community. Many of you have taken the fight against opioids beyond the courthouse. You're out in the community, meeting with law enforcement partners, connecting with youth and with community members, and consoling those who've lost loved ones to fentanyl. Your work is creative, it's remarkable, and it's inspiring. I hope this conference will help you build upon that great work you're already doing. Perhaps you'll identify a different approach to one of your cases, or an idea for a new outreach program in your district. But I also hope that this conference provides a reminder of the critical importance of the work that you do every day. Every day, your work saves lives and protects our communities. Enjoy the conference, and thank you for the tireless work ethic that you bring to this important effort. Department leadership is deeply grateful for all that you're doing. We must all pull together as part of a whole-of-government solution to this daunting challenge. And with your help, and based on your work, we will succeed.